set that there so we can forget where all those go. Okay, let's see underneath the fancy Japanese writing there what we've got for coolant. Alright, well, it wasn't stuck. Hey, yeah, that's the trick with this. What are we doing here? There we go. All B. Look at that. Full and green-ish. Well, there's a little bit of crustiness on there. We'll clean that off with the thumb cap cleaner here. Cap still does springy things. Hopefully it seals. Maybe I'll grab a rag here and clean that off real quick. That looks cleanish. Shake the dog hair off of it. Just try to clean off around that. That seems a little more better. And, well, at least there's been coolant in this the whole time and it didn't freeze and crack the block or something. So let me get the carburetors set up somewhere where you can see them, and we'll crack those open and see how bad they are. Alright, so motorcycle carburetors, they're fun. Because, you know, car carburetors, if you don't know how they work, they can be a real pain. With motorcycles, you get one per cylinder, so 4, and they all have to work in unison. It can be a real pain, but we're just going to blow these apart and see how bad they are inside. These are a diaphragm carburetor. So basically the way it works is inside this side here, you've got cables that open butterflies, kind of like a car. And on this side, you have slides that actually pull the needle. Oh, those are stuck. That's stuck. That's stuck. They're all stuck. That's great. So if they weren't stuck, engine vacuum, as you open up the butterflies, it creates more vacuum in the engine as the engine starts to rev up, which in turn, these vacuum diaphragms under these caps lift these slides up and it releases more fuel into the open butterfly into the engine. Now, the issue I had with these 12 years ago when I parked the bike is, well, they didn't work right. They would flutter and the bike would sputter real bad until they got enough vacuum to actually open, and then it would take off and, like I said, about throw you off the back of it. So we're going to need to replace those. I haven't ordered any. I do have another set of carburetors off of a 600, which are on the shelf back there. I don't know if they're the same or not. We'll find out. I think basically what we're going to do is just blow them apart, see how bad they are. And if I need to, I'll order new diaphragms, which probably going to have to. They're not super expensive, but they are kind of not that easy to get. You can't just go down to the O'Reilly's, unfortunately, and buy those. And most bike shops aren't going to have them in stock because this bike is over 30 years old. So, as you can see, this is just a plastic cap. This one has the diagnostic port broke off and plugged up, so putting a carb sync on this, well, that's going to be pretty much impossible. So we're just going to pretend like these are all in sync and not do that because I don't have a carb sync here anyway. This spring forces the diaphragm back down, and this rubber doodabby here that is not too terrible, but not too great either. Still flexible, but definitely stuck down in the bore of the carb, or the main jet stuck around the needle. Needle stuck in the main jet, I should say. The slide seems to be loose, but we'll pull the caps off, see how they look, and then we'll pull the float balls off and see how bad the bottom side of the carburetors are, which I'm guessing they're probably going to be pretty bad, judging by the fuel I saw in that tank. It's not going to be good. So I like to lay all my pieces and parts out in front of the carburetor so I don't get them all mixed up. And I like to start with a clean surface, usually lined with rags, because if there is any fluid in these carburetors, I don't want it all over the floor. And the hope is the rags catch most of it if it does spill out. I don't know if there's going to be any fuel left in these or not after so long, but we'll find out. So far, at least the caps come off. That's a good sign. And these diaphragms aren't as bad as I thought they would be, but I'd still like to probably replace them just because they have been sitting so long, and I'm guessing they're original to the bike. If I remember correctly, this engine was out of a 94 GSXR 1100 from Canada. So these are 40 millimeter carbs, which the American version never got any bigger than 38 millimeter carbs. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I recall. And I think the diaphragms are the same. I hope the diaphragms are the same, or I'm going to have to get a hold of some fillers up in Canuckland to find the parts for these. So this slide is, they're all pretty stuck and crunchy, and the needles are definitely stuck. So, well, diaphragms aren't really as bad as I thought they were going to be. I might not have to replace those, but the needles are definitely stuck. So let's pull the float bowls off and see how bad those are. And those are Allen screws, of course. Why would they not be Phillips? I don't know, but they're not. Let me get some Allen wrenches here. Of course, they're sitting over here behind the camera. Where else would I have put them? And I need something to spin. Set Allen sockets. Now let's see what this is. These are gonna be that size, which is 4 millimeters, 4 mm's. All right. Let me find a ratchet, maybe an extension to spin those. It's laying on the floor over here. Again, God reminding me I need to stretch. Okay. I have the ratchet and the Allen socket. Let's bust these float bowls off, see how bad everything in the bottom of the carburetor is. I'll turn them over so you can see. Just 2 screws on each carb. And if we're really lucky, the gaskets won't come apart. They probably will. And that'll just be another thing I have to buy. And like I said earlier, I have to probably make this more than one video because it's going to take a few to get these parts when I determine what I need. So we're probably going to end up not getting it running in this video, and I'll do a part 2 when I actually get the thing to start after I get the car parts. There we go. Nice little smack. Wow, these really aren't that bad. I'm pleasantly surprised. There's the green goo of sitting that happens when you leave fuel in things. No crystals though, which I'm surprised about. Usually this ethanol fuel turns into like Everclear crystals in the bottom of the float bowl. This is just green goo, which makes me think of a bike sitting since like the 70s. I've seen that before. And then I was talking about plastic float cages and plastic floats. I am guessing the needles and seats were bad on cylinders 3 and 4, and that's probably why there was fuel in the cylinders. Still don't know why there was fuel on top of the spark plug in number 2, but that's a problem we'll deal with at another time. Probably had to do with the tank, and luckily the gasket, actually minus the spider web that's stuck on here, is in good shape. Might even not have to, never gonna find that again. Not have to replace that. I don't know where that, there it is. We got lucky, it didn't grow legs and run off. So let's see what's under door number 2. All right. really thought this was going to be a lot worse. At least the float bowls themselves. The jet is completely crusted up and nasty and green stuff, but I don't think it's completely plugged. This may have actually started, albeit it wouldn't have run very well, but it may have started. I'm not gonna guess, but we'll just move on and take these apart and see what we got. Oh yeah, this one's stringy, gooey grossness. Much more goo in that one. That one's kind of got some oily, gooey wonderfulness in it. That's okay. I'll just set that there, and you can see the black goo is all over the jet and the float cage, so that's good. Floats. Float isn't stuck, but the needle is. Same with that one. Yeah, moving on. Let's get them all apart, and then we'll start actually looking to see how bad the internal parts are here. It smells horrible. It's not quite as bad as the tank, but it doesn't smell good. All right. At least none of the bolts seem to have been stuck. I didn't over tighten the crap out of those last time I had these apart, which I couldn't tell you when that was. All right. And this one, wow, is actually not that bad. A little bit of stuff in the very bottom of the bowl, but not nearly as bad as this guy. This is the offender here, which would be, let's see, number 3. Number 3, number 3 had some fuel run through it, and obviously let the fuel get in the engine. So I'm guessing that needle and seat's going to need replaced, because it did not stop the fuel from coming out of the tank through the carb and into the engine. And let's see. That's about numero uno here. This one has the throttle stop, throttle adjustment, idle adjustment screw, I should say. Take that off. Not stuck, also good. Get that out of the way here. Move you over. Put the screw back in there so we don't lose that, hopefully. And number 1, also a little gooey, not too terrible. You can see the goo there. I got a half can of carb cleaner though, so we should be fine. And the jets, yeah, there's not good. It's plugged. It's not. That is. I think these float cages have O-rings on them, which are seeming to be stuck in the body of the carburetor. And let's see if I can't break these trying to get them out of there. That'll be great. I'm pretty sure I'm going to at least ruin the O-ring. Oh, there we go. No, O-ring's still on there. What about this side? Oh, there we go. So there is the float assembly. Still moves. I don't hear any fluid in it. I don't know if it's still going to do float things, but we'll find that out later. The needle is stuck in the seat. I'll pull that out. That's your needle and seat assembly. You can see a little needle stuck in there. Try to get that apart here in just a minute. When we get all these disassembled, and then we'll worry about trying to get things apart. This one's got the goo on it. It's stuck pretty good. Now I got the goo all over my gloves. It smells like old gas and gun oil. I don't know. Doesn't smell like the stuff in the tank, which is odd to me. But yeah, whatever. I think I had put some sort of gas treatment in that at some point. I don't know how many years ago. Some starch on or some stable or something. So maybe that's what that did. I don't know. either way, it's bad now. It needs to be completely drained and swapped, and hopefully didn't completely ruin the tank, but we'll deal with that here in a minute when we figure out if it's so rusted it's even savable or not. So far, O-rings are staying intact. Needle and seats are coming out. O-rings intact on those as well. I'm kind of amazed, actually. That one's just sitting in there. That O-ring is on there, but I need replaced. The needle actually came out of that seat. I am surprised. Let's see if we can get that little guy off of there without destroying it. Just grab a thing here. There it goes, going down inside. So just so you can see it, that is a needle. Came out of the seat. Floats. I don't hear any fluid in any of them. They actually look pretty good, surprisingly. See if the seat comes out. Seat came right out. We're gonna need some O-rings. So needle, seat, needle goes in the seat. I think upside down. The float floats up, pushes that needle down against the seat, stops the flow of fuel. Pretty rudimentary stuff, but if you don't know, now you know. And then last one, number one here. Oh, it's pretty stuck. Come on, there we go. That O-ring's pretty chooched, but still there. And is this one gonna come apart? That needle is also stuck in the seat, and the floats seem reasonably good still. Really hope I don't have to replace those float assemblies because I don't know if you can even get them anymore. And this needle and seat, also pretty good. O-ring seems to be intact. We're gonna replace all those because I don't trust them. And let me get a flat screwdriver and we'll see if we can't get the main jets pulled out, and that might free up the slides. As of right now, all the slides are still very much stuck. Grab a big flat screwdriver here. See what happens when we try to undo these main jets. Hopefully they don't strip out. Oh yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Lots of goo. Okay, that main jet is actually not plugged. It's crusty, not plugged. We'll clean those up in a minute. I don't remember. I'll have to look up and see what jets are supposed to be in this, because that might have been part of the problem. I think I didn't have money for jets, so I just found some laying around in the junkyard I worked at, and we threw them in, assuming they'd be right. I have no idea. The emulsion tubes are probably stuck in the carburetor bodies. I don't remember if you got to pull a pin or what. I just leave them in there if they're not too bad. Oh, that emulsion tube's going to cooperate and come out. So apparently they thread in there. Now we know. This one's gooey, and the jet is plugged up with the goo. So we'll just set that aside here. I can get the emulsion tube out. Oh, that's just a collet. And that emulsion tube, remember how those come out? I think they just, I don't know what they do. That collet gonna come off of there? Oh, there it goes. Get that one off. Okay, cool. Surprisingly, stuff's coming apart. I'm relatively amazed that these carburetors are in as good a shape as they are. I really thought they were going to just be completely destroyed. Of course, I haven't taken them all apart yet, but so far, not terrible. Seen worse. And we'll just go ahead and drop that jet down in there. Really surprised at how clean everything but the bottom of the float bowls is. I don't know how or why or who or what, but I'll take it. Maybe that means the carburetor passages aren't completely all plugged up. We'll find out. That main jet, not plugged, surprisingly. Kind of amazing, actually. Straighten the rag out there. Just call it, that came right off. Good deal. I don't know if that's what you actually call it. I call it, but that's what I call it. So, pun intended. Uh-oh. This jet might be an issue. There, nope, there it goes. Good deal. Nothing worse than when you strip off half the jet trying to get it apart. Jet is a good 78% plugged. Perfect. This little cullet came off. Now I got to remember how in the heck you get emulsion tubes out. I think we're going to see if the slides want to cooperate because they need to come out, get the needles out. And I hate to do it, but I'm going to give them just a little persuasion. Oh yeah, it moved, that moved, that moved, and that moved. Oh, good deal. Let's go ahead and pull the slides and diaphragms out. There is your slide and needle and diaphragm assembly, and the little plastic spring go up against your chingadera fell out of that one. So just set that back on the needle here. Set that there. This one gonna cooperate. Oh yeah, I'll be. There's number 3, needle and slide assembly. Diaphragm, needle and slide assembly. Number 2. And number 1. I'll be. They actually came apart. I am blown away by that. There's some crud down on the emulsion tube in the bottom of the chamber there, but man, it looks like the emulsion tubes are actually somewhat open. Surprisingly. Let's see if we can get the rest of the slide assembly out of there. Those kind of just press in there and they're stuck. Of course, why wouldn't they be? Yep. That's how you get the emulsion tube out too. Those are probably going to be stubborn bastards. Let's see. Oh yeah. Ooh, that one's trying to move. Stuck. Well, let's give him some sauce. See if that wants to help him free up a little bit. There's a keyway. That pin I was talking about. You don't have to pull the pin. You don't have to forgive me. It's been a long time since I pulled a set of carbs like this apart. These are Mikunis. Most motorcycles of the 4-cylinder variety, and especially in the 90s, came with. Because they went to fuel injection, I believe it was in 96 with the SRAD Gixxers. And this was before that, obviously. So that one is the only one that wants to cooperate. So we'll start with that. Number 3, the worst looking of the bunch, is the only one that slide body and the emulsions tube move. It's actually coming out of there. I can push it the rest of the way out with my fingers. Nope. So what we can do, take the jet, thread it back in there to give us a little bit more something to beat on. There we go. As you can see, that's sinking down in there. Don't want to mess up these emulsion tubes, so we got to find a round punching type device to force those down, because they're not gonna cooperate by hand. So let me root around in my stuff here, see if I can't find something that will let me push those down with a little bit of force. I don't know what I've got. Let's see if we can find something. Maybe a punch. Something besides a Phillips screwdriver, preferably. Not that good. We got roll pin punch will work. It's going to be the right diameter. A little small. Let's have a big one. I really don't want to mess up those emulsion tubes. That would not be good. Let's see, that one might be too big. That's the ticket there. Let me grab a percussive device and see if we can't get those freed up and out of there. And I know. Why are you using a rubber hammer on a metal punch? Because I don't want to damage everything. So we need a light bit of percussiveness, not a lot. So we're going to use a rubber hammer with a broken handle. Perfect. Because we just want to tap. We don't want to beat on it. Because that's how you break things that are made of plastic and they're 30 years old. And that is actually kind of working. And there it goes. Come on down. There it is. All right, now to show you what I was just beating on. Throttle cable doesn't knock, or the stop screw doesn't knock all the stuff off. So that is what the slide slides up and down in, and that sticking out the bottom is the emulsion tube, and it's got little holes that are completely plugged up with goo. And that's what the needles were stuck in. You can see the goo on there. So 3 more of those, and then we can clean these carburetor bodies up and see if all the passages allow fluid to pass through them. And you're gonna need some O-rings, possibly some slides. These diaphragms, I don't know. They really aren't as bad as I thought. They're somewhat pliable still, I guess you could say. And the slides slide. They need cleaned up. So at this point, I'm just going to clean everything up. And we'll start to reassemble and see if things want to play nice. I have no idea. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this right out of here because it's in my way and it's knocking things off the bench, which we don't want to do. This is just the, like I said, the throttle or the idle adjustment screw. Sticks out the side so you can adjust your idle while it's on the bike. It's just a cable, a knob. It threads in and it runs up against the linkage to move it so that it either changes your idle up or down. Pretty simple stuff. Threads in there a long ways, I'll tell you that. Come on. Any minute. We should be out of threads any second. Gotta be about there. Any minute now. And there, nope, not quite. Come on. There it is. Throttle stop screw, or idle adjustment screw. I don't know why I keep saying throttle stop. Idle adjustment. Get the terms right, Seth. What are you doing? Anyway, I'm just gonna lay that in the middle there. Right. Rest of these slide body emulsion tube Chingus's. I don't know. We're just gonna beat on for the best. There's that one. That one. And that one. Good deal. Hopefully I didn't just break them all. Oh, that one, it just went ahead and sent the emulsion tube out. Well, that's something. Yeah, man. I was afraid of that. Well, I'll get that out. So when they don't come out in one piece, there's the emulsion tube. And gas through it. And let's try this one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give her another shot of the sauce here and see if that will help. Free up some of this. We'll give it a shot on the other side too. Let the fluid get down and around those plastic slide thingies, whatever they're called. I don't know the right term. Slide body, slide cage, slide rail. They hold the slides. They go up, slide up and down in them. I don't know what they're called. I don't really care what they're called. I know what they do. That's what matters. And we're going to make them work. So now, hopefully, nice. The old finger, push that one right out. Good deal. They shouldn't really be stuck in there. They should come out pretty easy. That one moved. That one also moved. Good deal. Just go ahead and knock the emulsion tubes through, and we should be happy. All right. Good deal. Move those out of the way. As you can see, those other two emulsion tube and slide cage chingaderas thingies fill out. That's good. And there's all of our carb parts. The reason I like to lay them out is so that I don't get them all mixed up. Because you start mixing and matching things, it probably will run, but it won't run right. And generally your 2-inch inner cylinders are generally a little bit richer because they run hotter. So being inside the engine, you get more heat in those than the outside two, which are on the outside, so they get more air. Weird, yeah. Actually, these don't look all that bad. I'm really kind of surprised. So we'll get some more carb cleaner. A few more things to pull out of there. I gotta get a little tiny screwdriver and get the pilot jets out. See how bad those are. And then we'll start blowing through passages and see what all is plugged up. As you can see though, this side, the top part of the float chamber is clean. It's just odd. I'm surprised. I can't even believe it. I'll take it, but I'm surprised by that. I need to get a pick tool and a small screwdriver, and then we can get the rest of these little brass fittings out. Pilot jets. Got the El Cheapo glasses screwdriver. I think that was on the clearance bin at the Big R down the road. And then an older model of one of those from another set. I don't know what I did with the rest of. Anyway, we got these little O-rings down in here that fit around the bottom, or the top, I should say, of the emulsion tubes we need to pull out. Those are probably going to need replaced. And then you can see a weird little flat O-ring. Those are probably special, and I can't get them from an O-ring kit. I don't know. I'm going to have to do a little more researching because I don't remember. But we'll pull them out so that we can find out if they're reusable or not. They look like they were originally flat. I don't think they're round O-rings. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I actually worked on anything like this, because the only carburetors I've worked on are on that big Plymouth you saw in the beginning of the video. And I'll be honest with you, an Edelbrock carb and a Holly carb, they're a lot different than motorcycle carbs. And the other motorcycle I have is fuel injected. The motorcycle I had before that was fuel injected, and most motorcycles, except for maybe the cheap Chinesium ones on the Amazons, are all fuel injected now. It's pretty rare you'll see one with carburetors. Carburetor is kind of a lost art, and it looks like we're actually missing an O-ring on the top, unless it's stuck on this cap, and it is, so that's good. So we're going to pull those O-rings out as well. Little guys right here, that's what seals the vacuum coming from the engine through the body of the carb up into the diaphragm cap, which actually pulls your diaphragms up. So it's kind of important that those seal, or your slides don't pull up and you don't get any fuel into your engine. So we want those to be good. Probably going to replace all of these O-rings that I can find, because I don't trust any of them. And all the ones I've seen, except for maybe the flat ones I just showed you that came off the top of the emulsions tubes, weren't supposed to be flat, but they're relatively flat now, which is not good for sealing. So, all right, that's everything that needs to come off the top. Let's pull the pilot jets out. They are next to the emulsion tube orifice down on this other side. This is what runs your basically idle to quarter throttle before the slides open and start pulling fuel to the main jets. And how much you want to bet those are stuck. Let's spray some sauce in there. Let that percolate for a few while I go find a better screwdriver. That is too small. I'm just going to break those jets. So are all the ones on my glasses screwdriver assortment there. I don't know what I did with that. This one, it's not too big, might be the way to go. Let's see here. Oh, it fits. Does it fit in the jet? Yeah, I don't think so. That might be an issue. Also, I'm noticing no fuel is coming through those pilot jets, so they're plugged solid as well. I think that's going to be too big, too wide. Dang it. Let me see what else I got for screwdriver options. I used to have screwdrivers just for this. I don't know what I did. All right. Let's see. Maybe. Broken. Should go back in there. You're gonna come out of there without breaking, preferably. That'd be cool. There we go. Sorry, this might be kind of boring, but this is the tediousness of disassembling 4 motorcycle carbs. If you've never done it, it's pure joy. No, it's tedious, and you really need to be paying attention. The first time I ever did this, boy, I messed up a set of carburetors. Broke things and destroyed things, and I'm out of practice. It's been several years since I've done this. Any actual motorcycle mechanics watching are probably like, you idiot. But what I got, that's what I'm doing, that's how we're doing it. Feel free to make fun of me in the comments if you want. That's fine by me. Now if I can just get number 3 freed up, we'll be rocking and rolling here. Yep. Oh, yeah, okay. What do you got for me? Come on. Come on out of there. Little plastic clips. Plastic. 30-year-old plastic at that. It's always a gamble. There we go. Okay. We have got all 4 choke plungery chingaderas loose, I think. Now, should be able to take this whole assembly apart. What I don't remember is how you get them actually out of carb bodies themselves without just bending everything all to hell. I need to get that sliding rod off of there. Luckily, I'm missing the one between 2 and 3, so that's handy. I think just twist this once you get it off all the carb plungers. Come out of there. I could be wrong, and people are probably yelling at me like, "Don't do that," but that's how I did it. There you go. There's all the little choke actuator bracket chingy Daris thing. Yep. So then each carb has a little choke plunger. Just basically gives you more fuel to start. And that one, they're actually pretty good. O-rings are flat, but the assemblies themselves are in good shape. Plungers are good, needles are good. We'll probably just put those back in there with new O-rings and call it good. So, yeah. Nice. All right. That, for the 3rd or 4th time, should be everything that needs to come out of these. I don't see anything else. I don't remember ever having to take much else out of these. Butterfly action works. A little sticky, but we'll get that freed up, pressed away. Get these all clean. So let me get these cleaned up, and we'll see what parts we can find, replace. I'm gonna have to do some searching for some O-rings, and then I will start you back on the reassembly and show you what parts I was able to find, what I had to replace, and what you can't get anymore that I had to rig together out of something else. So, yeah, see you in a bit. Well, hey there, everybody. It's the next day. I was able to find some parts, luckily. Got a metric set of O-rings from the O'Reillys that should replace most of the O-rings I was worried about yesterday. And with a stroke of luck, I was able to pull apart my 600 carburetors that I had sitting on the shelf behind me. And the needles are the same, and they're in a lot better shape than the ones I pulled out of these 1100 carburetors. So we're going to use those. I'll go ahead and show you the difference here. Maybe you'll be able to see if I can get the camera to focus. Now you can see here, this is the needle I pulled out of the 1100, and it's tough to tell on this camera, but the shape of the rubber end is not quite tapered anymore. It's got a ridge right here. That's probably going to cause them to leak. This is the shape you're looking for, a nice taper all the way down to the point, which should seal a lot better. So we're going to utilize the needles out of the 600, and we'll put these 1100 needles in the 600 carbs for storage, and I'll replace them if I'm ever going to get the 600 engine running. But we'll get the camera set back up, and we'll start reassembly here, and well, cleaning and then reassembly, I should say, and hopefully that will allow us to see if this bike's going to run. As you can see, I've already put together 3 of them. I didn't figure everybody wanted to watch me do the same thing 4 times, because it's a bit tedious the way I do this. So we'll go ahead and gather up all these parts for number 4 here and clean them up, put them together, and you can see how I did the other 3. You'll get the gist of it and understand why, when you see how long this takes me and how tedious I am about it, why I didn't want to waste an hour of video showing you the same thing 4 times. So, right, so pretty simple setup that I use. Basically, can of carb cleaner, drain pan, air nozzle, air hose, and a nylon bristle brush. Cheap little wooden handled nylon bristle brush. And a pick tool. So, the way I do it, I clean each part individually. I'm very meticulous about it. I know I could probably soak these things in some carb cleaner, a bucket of carb cleaner, get a fancy ultrasonic cleaner or something, but I don't mind doing it this way. It gives me a chance to inspect each part as I'm cleaning it and make sure that nothing is damaged, there's no flaws, no things that are broken or cracked or going to cause me an issue after I reassemble. And I just spray some carb cleaner on there and take the wire brush, or not wire, nylon brush, and bust up the dirt. Carb cleaner takes most of the rest of it off. And you want to make sure on these CV carbs you get this guy right here super clean, because that's where your slides up and down on in the carburetor body. So just take your time, get it cleaned up. You see this stuff just comes right off. No carb cleaner, a little bit of elbow grease. I know it's not quite as efficient as soaking it, but I don't mind doing this the hard way. Like I said, when I started all this, I generally do things my own way. Might not be the right way, but that's how I do it. So works for me. I'm going to keep it up. I apologize in advance if the air compressor starts up, because it's going to make it hard to hear, and it probably will, just because, I'm trying to film a video here. But basically, now that I got the dirt off, give it a quick once over with the rag. Make sure we get any excess chunks of goo and dirt and whatnot off of there. And then to get the rest of it out of the little orifices, give it a nice blast with some air. And these little gaskets, O-rings, whatever they are, flat O-rings, I can't find them. I could order them, but they're a few days out and they're kind of expensive. So I'm just going to use a little carb cleaner in my gloves, kind of soften them up, and then blot them dry. Takes the stickiness off, makes them a little pliable again. You got to be kind of careful with carb cleaner and rubber parts. They do tend to swell, which is why I'm replacing most all these O-rings. And you just got to line it back up. There's these little notches you can see on there. There's little impressions on this ring where it was sitting before. So we'll just line those up, and it just kind of sits in there like that. Not really. It's supposed to just kind of sit in there, kind of like that, inside of that little formed ridge in the plastic part there. And there we go. I'll set that up on the table and move on to the next piece. Get the little choke plunger here. Work that out. That's actually not an O-ring like I thought it was. It's an actual seal assembly, and I don't have any more. These ones a little hard, but they're not too bad. So I'm just going to run them. Don't lose the little washer on there. And we'll take the spring off and just clean these needles up a bit so that they slide nice and smoothly. Otherwise, the choke's not going to work very good. I'm just pretty much going to use my gloves to clean these up. And grab a blue towel, wipe off the scuzz, the crud, and put it back together. Pretty simple stuff. It's a little bit tedious, but like I said, I like to be meticulous with this because these carburetors are kind of sensitive, and if you leave stuff crusted up and dirty, that probably never work. Now that slides through there quite nicely. That's what we need. There is a little ridge on the end of that there slide that keeps it in the seal. Set that up there. Next, we'll clean this off, and yes, the diagnostic port on this, for whatever reason, vacuum port, so you can hook up your carb sync, is gone, broken, plugged up. Is what it is. I don't have a carb sync anyway, like I said before, so just gonna move on and hope that they're synced up nice. Probably not, but a guy can hope, right? Just take my rag and kind of clean that out. And hit her with a little air, just to blast that in. Excess I might have missed. And the biggest thing is get this surface that seals on the diaphragm as clean as you can. These are a little bit roughed up, but hopefully they'll still seal. We'll find out. I don't want to take anything abrasive to them because they're plastic, and it'll probably make it worse. And we'll clean the needle off. These needles have some crusty grossness on them. I don't know if the camera's going to focus, but just going to douse them with a little carb cleaner and see if a carb cleaner and a rag will take that off of there. And it gets a lot of it, but you'll see some like crusty stuff on there. So I'll just take my pick tool and stick that in there and just kind of run it back and forth so it knocks off the crustiness. And we'll hit it again with some carb cleaner and a rag. And you'll feel it. It's kind of rough until you get that stuff off of there. Then it'll be nice and smooth. Biggest thing is you don't want to sand on these. You don't want to take anything abrasive to them because you want to keep the diameter the same. And you definitely don't want to bend them because that's what meters the fuel coming out of the main jet into the engine. And that's really all there is to it. It's not a big deal. Also, don't move your circlip. That's where your needle height is set at. This one's in the topmost groove. So they were set. I'm not going to mess with them. And we may end up taking those out again and changing that if it doesn't run right. But I won't know until we get it back in there. A little wear on that needle. Nothing to be too worried about. Set that aside. And this is just the spring retainer that goes on top of the needle. Just give that a quick douse. And blow it out with the air compressor. Pretty simple stuff. Go ahead and clean the float assembly. There's a tube here that's been plugged up on every one of them. So what I'm doing basically is just kind of filling this up with some carb cleaner. You can see it's actually not too plugged on that one. It's going through. So we'll just fill it up, and then I'll take my air nozzle, put it in the wide end where I can kind of seal around it and blast the dirt out of there. Now it's nice and clean. Just kind of visually inspect it. I don't know if I can line that up or you can see, but there's a little hole inside of there. As long as you can see light through it and it's nice and round, no chunks, should be good to go. The rest of these floats look pretty clean. We'll change that O-ring here in a second and deal with that when we reassemble. Set that up here. And then of course we got the float bowl itself, full of green sticky goo nastiness. I had that soaking overnight. I'm going to go ahead and remove the bowl drain screw so we can make sure we get that drain hole empty. And this screw's kind of stripped out, of course, because why wouldn't it be? Try a different screwdriver here. Get that loose. Nope. All right, we'll try option 3. Hopefully I can get that out of there. Or not. Just gonna strip out some more. Yep. Okay, I guess we're not gonna take that out. As you can see, that screw's pretty well destroyed. It's not that crucial. I'll clean out the drain hole itself, and we'll clean out the float bowl the hard way, and hopefully that'll be good enough. I'm gonna spray a little more carb cleaner in here. It's still not getting all this stuff out of there. You can see it gets most of it. See, it breaks up quite a bit of that stuff pretty easily. And I'm gonna take my nylon brush, just kind of get down in here, run around the perimeter, work down in the bottom, the well there, and just get all the scuzz and crust and nastiness out of there. Anything I can't reach with the brush, I'll actually take the pick tool and just kind of scratch it off. You see there's a little bit of crud that doesn't want to come off there, so we'll just use the pick tool, scrape that out of there, hit her with some carburetor cleaner again. I got the gum out because it was on sale, and then I'll blast some air in there. That should be mostly all we need. As you can see, nice and clean, no more scuzz in there. Get the rest of the stuff out, and then good. I'll set that up here, and then we'll start putting all of our little tiny parts inside of that as we get them cleaned up here. Start with the emulsion tube, and you can, I don't know if you can see, there are 4 holes on each side of this that have to be clear, and this one they are sort of open, so same kind of thing. I'm just going to plug one in with my finger, take some carb cleaner, shoot it on in there and see if it comes out the holes or not. You can see there's, oh yeah, there's spraying. We got some flow there. I'm gonna blast it through, clean up the outside. By spraying a little on there, I'll take the nylon brush just in my hand and kind of go around it, clean off any buildup and crusty, gooey, old gas that could be on there. And it don't have to be shiny, just gotta be clean. Then I'll take the air, blast it. Make sure the holes aren't facing you in the teeth. You can see on my glove there that the holes are open. And I don't know if you can see through that or not. It is clean. Wait for the compressor to stop making noise here. It shouldn't take too long, and we'll continue on. Yep, never fails. So while we're waiting here, I'm just going to clean this collet off. That goes over the bottom of the emulsion tube, and the main jet screws up against it. That actually kind of holds the emulsion tube and the plastic slide assembly down into the carb body. Pretty much all of this stuff, I just use my gloves, and I just kind of rub the scuzz off of them. And I like the nylon brush because you can punch a bunch of the bristles together and get down into things. Get it clean. That again real quick. Give it a quick shot of air. And there we go. In the full before you go. Main jet, oops, stuck to the container. You can see there's some crud in there, and it's not actually plugged, but it's cleaned the scuzz off of it anyway. The carb cleaner takes most of that stuff right off. This come out stuff is actually pretty good solvent. It takes all this crusty old green gas and nasty stuff right off of things. You don't have the stickiness and the white crusty crap all over everything. You're better off. And then again, like I was saying with the nylon bristle brush, you could do it with a wire brush too, but I don't like to use wire. It's a little too harsh. You stick the bristles kind of down inside of these jets, get them cleaned out. Works really good on the pilot jet too, because it's such a small little hole. Torch cleaners will work too, but you take the chance of wallering out the hole, which will make the jet not what it's supposed to be. That's why I like the nylon. And one more shot of the carb cleaner. Quick shot of air. And we get a nice clean main jet. Neat thing about these particular nitrile gloves I have, they just they get bigger. They swell up. The more carb cleaner you get on them, must be some sort of chemical reaction there. I don't know. Pilot jet, nice and yeah, it's plugged up. So again, I'm gonna fill the top side with, I guess the bottom side technically, with some carb cleaner. And it's not draining out, so that's definitely plugged up. Again, we'll take one of the bristles on this nylon brush and just kind of work it in here into that little tiny itty bitty hole, which if you're patient, one of them eventually will go in there. Probably why a lot of fellers just soak these, because this is kind of tedious and time consuming, but I'm kind of stubborn and I do things the way I do them. So feels like we got a bristle in there maybe. Well, this is completely plugged, I can't tell. There we go. We got a bristle through there now. I think. Yep. So now that's unplugged, we'll give her another shot of the sauce. And you can see it spraying out of there. Do that again so you can see it spray. There we go. A little shot of air. Plug the end of my nozzle. And now we got a nice clean pilot jet. See light through it, good. And the other little jet that goes in the intake side of the carburetor. I think that's for the idle circuit, like I was saying. And it's open, but we'll clean it anyway, just for the sake of doing so. Hit it with a little air, which is probably impossible to see with my now very stretched out baggy gloves. But it makes a fun sound. Alright, that's clean. And last but not least, needle and seat. Now these needles I pulled out of the other set of carbs that I have. The ones that were in here, the one I showed you was actually the best. Some of the other ones were completely coming apart. The rubber tip there was just disintegrated and all swelled up. So we'll just give those a quick shot. Clean them off. Maybe give them a wipe down with the blue towel real quick. Don't be too aggressive. You don't want to pull the rubber off of there. Set that aside. And then the seat itself, which isn't too bad. It's not plugged up or anything, but we'll clean all the crustiness out of the inside of it. And again, take the nylon brush, shove a bunch of bristles inside. Many as I can get in there, just kind of work it back and forth. Clean up the bottom side of it and the outside of it. We're going to replace that O-ring as well, because now it's all swelled up. And it was pretty bad before I hit it with carb cleaner, so then I'm just going to blow that out, blow it off, and now it's nice and clean. And just to be on the, for sure it's going to seal, I'll stick the needle in there, and I'll fill that little hole with carb cleaner, and make sure it holds, and it's not draining out. Pull the needle back, and it drains out. Hey, it works, yay. One more shot of air. That all dried off, and we're good to go. And that is about it, times 4. Obviously I just did 3 of them, so I got a little faster at it, but that's the process I use. Now we've got a bunch of clean parts, and we'll set the camera up so you can see the bench and reassemble. Alright, well, here we go. Last of 4 I did clean this, but I totally forgot to show you because I set the camera up where it is now and then realized I hadn't done that yet because I forgot to put it down there by my cleaning pan station. And I just cleaned it real quick. So same process though. Sprayed it, brushed it, wiped it down, sprayed it again, blew it out, wiped it off, clean, ready to go. And we'll put that in here. So, as I was saying, first off, I like to do the plastic slide retainer chingadera thing and make sure the O-ring is in the bottom emulsion tube. And if you look down, you can see through the carb body in here, there's a pin on this side and there is a corresponding groove on that guy right there. So when you put it in, make sure you align that or you're going to have a bad day. And the slide cage dealy fits in like that. These little tabs kind of show you which way it goes. You can kind of, if you pass the old, square hole, round peg deal when you're a baby, it should be pretty simple. Anyway, emulsion tube goes in first. And this, gotta go the other way. Goes in through here. It takes a little bit of force. You just kind of wiggle and push. Get that guy to slide through this plastic body. Maybe. There it goes. And you can see that's just a tight fit, but it'll slide through there. And once you get past that white spot, that's fit in there like that. Now I'm gonna look here, and pins on this side, fits in this way. We'll turn the groove over to that side, and this just kind of presses down in this plastic retainer and sits in there. Kind of wedges. You want it to be straight, so I kind of push from above and pull to get that down in there. Now I'm just going to slide it down. You'll see it's going to go into the hole in the bottom of the carb body. And it's going to go most of the way in. And I'm going to take my ball pin punch. I like these because they got the nub, which fits down inside of that emulsion tube. I'm just going to push it right down through the bottom. Maybe. There it goes. There we go. And just to make sure it's seated all the way, I'm just going to take and give it a couple of taps. Light taps, rubber hammer. Now, before you forget and push down on this and shove that back up in there, attempting to put the needle and slide in, it's a good idea to go ahead and put your collet and your main jet on there. So, collet just fits over the end of the emulsion tube. Main jet, this guy right here, threads into the bottom of the emulsion tube. Sorta, yep, there it goes. And as you tighten that down, it actually is going to pull, if there's any need for it to go any further, it'll pull that emulsion tube and that plastic cage down in there. You don't want to go too crazy. You can feel when it kind of bottoms out. And then if you look into the intake side while you're doing that, now that plastic piece is going to be lined up with the carburetor body itself. That's when you know you got it where it needs to be. So, next step, the way I like to do it, before I forget, I'm going to drop the old pilot jet in there. This guy goes in right behind the main jet in that port. Grab my fancy, not so bent up anymore screwdriver. And thread that down in there. Doesn't need to be super crazy tight, just tight-ish. And then there's that metering jet for what I believe is the idle circuit. And if I've been saying that wrong this whole time, feel free to correct me in the comments, but I don't know. That's what I think it does. And that goes into this port on the intake side of the carburetor. Drop it in. And again, fancy not so bent up screwdriver. Tighten that down just like the pilot jet. And there you go. Done. And we'll flip the carburetors over. we don't want to forget about our little buddy, the choke plunger here, which I'm going to have to rebenderize the linkage for. But this has got these little plastic, I don't know, Chinga, Darris deals that clip into some holes in the carburetor body. And you can see here, it just slides into this port. Make sure you kind of work it in there and line it up. And you got to line up your little plastic, whatever you want to call them, dealies. Takes a little fiddling. And sometimes the assistance of a flat screwdriver to line that bottom one up. There we go. That's just going to press in there like that. And there might be some sort of special tool for that. I don't know, but you can see now that works. So before I start dumping parts everywhere, we'll do the choke linkage last. And take the needle, diaphragm, and slide. And that goes down in through that middle hole. So I usually just kind of drop it in there and let it fall out the middle hole like that. And I'll spin it around because there's a groove in that plastic piece that needs to sit down inside of a little race section in the bottom of that. You can feel when it fits in there. It's not so easy to turn. Next, spring retainer. Little guy. Usually just shove the spring on the end of it, thusly. And that goes down in on top of the needle. And that's about it. Then you want to drop your needle and seat, or I'm sorry, your needle and slide down into the carb body. It fits into that other plastic piece. Let me bring the diaphragm up. Get it in rest form here, or rest mode, whatever you want to call it. And that's about it. That actually drop in there. I'll be dipped. Usually the needle doesn't fall right in there. I must have had them level enough. So next, top cap. And we need an O-ring, which I'm getting out of my fancy set of O-rings from O'Reilly's. Metric $17 set. Way more O-rings than I'm going to need. But hey, you can never have too many O-rings, right? So that little guy fits on top of that vacuum port. And then this little guy fits into that spring with that tube thing there. And just make sure you line it all up. And then you want to grab your screws, which I left over here, and start them in. I usually start them in by hand, just to make sure I'm not cross-threading anything. And I'll grab my Phillips. And basically, you don't want to over-tighten these because you'll crack them. So I use grab a hold of the metal part of the screwdriver, bring it down until it just touches on both sides. And I'll get it about as tight as I can, grabbing a hold of the metal part of the screwdriver on each side. And then just 2-finger tighten it. 2 fingers. Don't grab a hold of it with your meat paw like you did when I was loosening them. You don't need to do that. That's how you break stuff. Trust me. Learned the hard way when I was younger, and I over-tightened everything. Breaking screws and extracting bolts and stuff, it's not really fun. I try not to do it whenever I can. All right, now the bottom side of the carburetor. So, needle and seat. Seat fits in here. We'll pull the needle out and just set it aside. And we're going to change this O-ring, which is pretty wore out. And that'll be, I don't know what size, 3 sizes up from the one I just grabbed in the O-ring kit. And if I can get it off the post here, this guy right here. Looks a little smaller, yeah, but that one's swelled up and it'll work because all it needs to do is fit in that groove and then fit down into this hole and seal. And if there's any resistance, you got to kind of twist it and wiggle it to get the O-ring to sit in there. It just pushes down in there. The float cage actually holds it down. So next thing I'm going to do is change the O-ring on the float cage itself. These I think are supposed to be like a flat O-ring, which I don't have. So what I'm going to do is the right thing and take an O-ring that's way too small and stretch it over there because it'll be thin enough to fit down inside the carburetor body and seal. Because I tried it with the right size O-ring and it's too fat, and these every one of them has broken. So same size that I used on the top diagnostic port. And this is not really fun, and I broke one so far because I was not being too gentle, but it's kind of like putting a tire on. And I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to kind of roll it over this plastic piece, and it's going to take me about 3 or 4 or 5 or 15 tries to get it on there. You got to be kind of gentle. You don't want to screw up this float assembly because it's plastic, and it's 30-year-old plastic at that. But if I can get this to cooperate. I did this 4 other times without too much trouble. Now that you're watching, it messed me up. Okay, got it in there. And you can see it, maybe you can see it. It sticks out past the edge of that plastic just enough, and it just wedges down in there like the seat does. So we're just going to take that, and we'll probably going to hang the needle off of it. That's going to be kind of important. Needle fits on that little metal tang, that little, I don't know, metal clippy doodad there. I'm going to go up from the bottom, and this is really hard to do backwards. Try to get that little metal clippy doodad over the metal tang without dropping it 75 times. Yep, there's once. Keep count with me. It's going to be at least 3 or 4, hopefully not 75. Alright, let's try that again. This is riveting, isn't it? Watching me try to get this stupid little clip over this tiny little tang here. Yeah, this is pretty exciting content. I'm glad you're watching. Alright, I got it on there. You can see it's kind of hanging on that little tang. And we're going to flip her back around. And it's going to be hard to see because, well, there's things in the way, but that little needle needs to drop into that seat. And we'll just kind of wiggle it so that it falls down in there, hopefully. Maybe sort of kind of. Come on. And then the float cage goes over that choke tube there. Get the needle valve to fall down in the seat. Come on, go in. There we go. And then that O-ring I just replaced just kind of presses down in there. I usually just kind of wiggle it. You'll feel it. It's got a little resistance to it. And that's it. Float bowl's the last thing, which gasket's still good, nice and clean. This nub lines up with that hole, and then the float bowl itself, these little pegs inside of it here on the back side sit down on this float cage and hold everything down in there. So that just fits on there like that and bolts back together. And if we're really lucky, all this wrong O-rings and cleaning and seats out of another, or needles out of another carburetor will actually work, and it won't just fill the engine up with fuel, and maybe it'll even run. So until I get the fuel tank dialed in or replaced, we're gonna have to run it off of something else. I might just fill the hoses up with fuel, fill the float bowls, and we'll see that way if the needles are gonna hold. Because again, don't get stuff too tight. That's why I like this little Schlimpy Checker Titan brand ratchet I bought, because I can't just wrench on stuff like I normally can. So just little twist, tighten them down evenly. All right, oh, I almost forgot choke thing. Well, we've got some 2-stroke gasoline and the wrong kind of bottle, but it has the tip I need. It's probably going to leak everywhere because I think it's for like batter or kitchen stuff. Might have stole it out of the kitchen, don't tell the wife. Anyways, just going to take these fuel hoses. We're just going to run some fuel down in there. Try to dump it all over the engine. And I'm probably just going to go until I pretty much overflow each hose. I don't know, I've got fuel down on each carburetor. I don't know how much these are going to hold. Hopefully it doesn't start just running all over the Transmission. Sounds full. Be enough to see if it's going to start. I see some fuel down in there. And where's my other fuel line at? No, it's still on here. There we go. It's one of these hoses. Oh, it's this small one right in front of my face here. I want to hold more. See fuel leaking over there? Oh, it's drinking it. Can't tell if it's leaking or not yet. We'll look in just a second. Hopefully the fuel is staying in the carburetors. Oh boy. Oh, we're full. Yep. That's full. Alright, let's just set that aside. Maybe we're gonna do a cap, put that on there. It's gonna keep it from leaking if it falls over, but I don't see any fuel dripping out the bottom of the carburetors. It's a good sign. Let's just see what happens. We got power on, I think. Cross your fingers. Let's see. Oh, it popped. It might go. Round 2. Here. Oops. Let's bring the idle up a hair. See if it'll sit here and idle for us. I'll be. Look at that. Fired right off. Gotta love old Japanese motorcycles. There's the smoke. Amazing. 12 years just sat. And it fired up that easy. After did all that other stuff. Can you believe that? 12 years. Fired right up. A little smoky, but I never expected that. Heck, my Indian smoked up mine after the 6 months. So.
fired up that well, that's run out of fuel, I think. Oh, we just ran out of fuel. Let's try it one more time. Let's dump some fuel all over the carbs, that'll help. Let's fire back up.
Morning, that sounds better. Yeah. And the kill switch works. Well, I am blown away. I don't even believe it. Sat for 12 years, had rotten fuel all through it, and fired up and runs reasonably well. We don't know how it's going to ride yet. I got to get some tires. We'll get the fuel tank situation squared away. Hopefully the evaporust I dumped in there is going to get rid of most of the rust. Doesn't seem to be leaking out of the tank. Seems to me the petcock was what caused all of this mess. This smoke that's coming off of here is interesting. It smells like a weed whacker that's been sitting all winter and like someone threw an old shoe into a campfire kind of a smell, mixed with some stinky old gas stench. I don't know. It's a weird, unique smell. I think that's all the stuff that leaked out of the tank onto the engine and everything else burning off and yeah, stinking. But so yeah, we'll come back for part two. Get some tires put on it, get the fuel tank situation addressed, and get it buttoned up and take it and see if it'll do some wheelies. So thanks for watching. Like I said earlier, this is my first ever foray into making a video for the YouTubes. So feel free to tell me how I did, critique me. Not have to be too harsh, but I'm open to suggestions. If you think I can do any better, or if you'd like to see more stuff, let me know. I've got lots of other things that have been sitting around. We can get running, dirt bike, a couple mini bikes. Got a old Volvo over there that doesn't work. So I don't know what's wrong with that one. It's Swedish. It's weird. Got turbo though. And I've got other little projects, and if you're interested in seeing it, I will acquire more projects and make them run and smoke and smell like old shoes and weed whacker gas. But again, thanks for watching.